Welcome to the Beauty of Better podcast, where we help moms thrive in health and faith.
Hey, mamas, welcome back this week. We're super excited. Our four squares are complete this week. We've got Kelsey back for this episode, and we're so excited. She just had a baby. So she might be in and out of episodes. She might leave early if she needs to, but we just want her voice as long as we can have her voice. And this week, we're going to continue our talk on family rhythms. So, this is part three of family rhythms. And with this one, we really wanted to focus on grace and just releasing grace over you and even praying for you and just talking about how do you have grace for your family, for your systems, for your rhythms that you have, and just to go against cultural norms and just grace in transitions. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. And I'm actually going to have Kelsey just jump in with
Yeah.
some because she's in a major transition right now.
Yeah, it's so nice to be here and yeah, I feel like my life is a little bit on a stopwatch right now, but that's I think everybody who's had a baby can relate to that a little bit. So, I think the idea of grace and just giving ourselves grace as we go against cultural norms, we can start with that. But I think
Mm.
something that's really against the cultural norm that our family is trying to pursue right now and really all the time is really prioritizing that Sabbath day. And um, I think with kids and especially with a newborn, having a Sabbath just feels really different because there's not I don't know. I think back to when I didn't have kids and the way that I used to rest and worship looked really different than the way that I am able to do that now. But for us, we try not to book a ton of things on that day and just to leave that white space as white space. And I think just having white space on the calendar in general and viewing that not as time that needs to be filled, but it's just like it's there as white space. We're not going to fill it with anything unless we all feel like it. And then we can be more spontaneous and really prioritize getting to worship and rest and using our energy for that on, especially on a Sunday. So for us right now, that looks like trying to be on time for church. So the kids are getting
Hard
to
to do.
like see other children and learn about Jesus, and then we get to listen to the sermon with just the newborn, which definitely feels more restful. And I think back to like myself, if you're listening and you're a first-time mom, you're like, what? That's not restful. And I totally understand that too. Like it doesn't feel restful when you're a first-time mom to have your newborn with you. So if that's you, maybe it looks like dropping your newborn off or maybe taking your little one and having someone else hold them. But when you have older kids, I think just having the quieter time and being able to like sit and get filled up and have somebody speak to you about the Bible and just have some quiet while you're doing that is really great. So even if it's on a
Yes.
screen like in the nursing room, and that's amazing. So we do that on Sundays, and then also we just try to something really practical that we try to do, like we just use paper plates on Sundays so we don't have to do dishes. I try not to do
Good
laundry
tip.
on Sundays. If I can get a nap, I'm gonna take it. If I can't, maybe I'm just gonna try to read books more with my kiddos in the afternoon so it's a little more chill. But those are just some practical things I think that really go against the cultural norm of like fill your schedule every second, every day, maximize, be productive, do this. Um,
Mhm.
your worth is in your productivity. And I think as a type A person, um, having children really just flips all that on its head because it's like it's not productive in the way the world says it's productive,
Yeah.
but you are valuable and you are like keeping a baby alive, and that's like what did you do today? Like I cared for my children and like I kept my
Mhm.
baby healthy and that's what I did, and it was valuable even if it's not measurable like everyone else measures things. So those are just some of the things that pop into my head in the being in the newborn phase right now. And I think just really prioritizing that Sabbath rest throughout any phase. For our family, that's really important. And I'm sure it is going to look different as our kids get older and what we're able to do, but that's something that's really important to us and just trying to prioritize that. So I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in on that or
You made
Yeah.
me think of something with that Sabbath rest, Kelsey. It kind of makes me think it ties into that like health and self-care part
Mhm.
too, right? Just as much as
Mhm.
it's going against the cultural norms, like the fact that you're resting not just when you're sleeping, but you're resting during the day.
Right.
And then I think one piece tied to that too is just even recognizing how important sleep is.
Yeah.
Um, Even recently, like we've had a season where I just wasn't able to get up early to work out. And I felt like, oh, that's what I need for my health. But I flipped that and said, hey, you know what? Like, I can't get my exercise in this, you know, season. Let me make sure I'm getting at least 8 hours of sleep. Right. So, like,
Right.
there's different seasons, I think, with health that we can even tie in. Like, okay, how am I resting in the day, but how am I also resting at night and caring for these things so I can care for my kids and I can
Mhm.
do these other things that are put in front of us. And so, yeah, I think those two things tie so well together, going into cultural norms and taking care of yourself. So,
Yes. I loved Kelsey. I loved your Instagram little video you did the other day of like you had your other toddler boys like fighting or over something, and then you had your newborn strapped on you, and you were still like lifting weights. I was like, yes, this is so relatable, and I love back to what you said is like if you commit to something, like even if it's not ideal, like lifting 3 days a week, like I just was so encouraged by that because I was like, man, so many seasons of my life have looked like that where it's just like chaos and carnage. But I'm like, I know that I need to get this exercise in so that I don't go crazy. And so I don't know, I thought that was a really encouraging video because a lot of times we see in culture like moms always have or like women have their makeup all done and their hair done and they're in these perfect Lululemon outfits and it just everything looks pristine, and it's like that can when you look at that all the time on social media that makes you feel kind of like, oh, like I'm less, like I'm not where I should be. And so I just think I just loved like your it was just like real moment. Like, this is what working out often looks like as a mom with young kids, and learning to be okay with that. And sometimes having to like shut out those like cultural images of like what's the ideal. And it's like, okay, I can't, that ideal isn't what's working for me. So finding what is going to work for my health. So I don't know. I was really encouraged by
Aw,
that.
thanks, Kathleen. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like um, right now I am trying to, well, all the time really, but just trying to, if I make a promise to myself, I'm trying to keep it, but making a realistic promise to myself.
Yeah.
Like with a 10-week-old, I said this before we started recording, but he's my best sleeper out of the three that I've had. So I feel like I can commit to doing three workouts a week. Hi,
Yay.
sweetie. I'm sure he
Aw.
is fussing. Okay. Um, I'll s- I'll see you in a little bit, babe. So I that was my oldest there popping in to say
So
hello.
sweet.
But so I'm trying to make a realistic promise, which I think is giving myself grace, right? Not on, if I'm gonna work out, it's hopefully I'm getting like a certain amount of sleep, like I'm getting at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Maybe it's scattered or broken, but if I don't get that much, it's not worth it for me to work out. Like it would just be better off for me to just do a walk or stretch or move. But if I get enough sleep, then I'm gonna try to get a lift in, but it's very messy and not ideal in any way right now. But if I make that promise to myself, I want to keep it because that's having integrity with yourself, just like you have with other people too.
Yeah.
So if you make a
Mhm.
promise to somebody else and you keep those, we should really do that with ourselves too, and just give ourselves grace on what that looks like, right? So I'm not getting up before my kids right now. I prefer that, but that's not realistic for me. So I'm just trying to get it in at some point during the day, and that's good enough. So,
I feel like we need a whole episode on setting SMART goals because that's literally what you're
yeah,
talking about. It's like
Yeah.
it's
right.
realistic, it's attainable. Like this is what you
Yeah.
need in this season of life because you have to do what's working in this season and we can't expect perfection. So, one thing I
Yeah.
love that you said about the Sabbath too, that I was thinking back on our family values that we all talked about was just your Sabbath is also your family time. Like you're having it together, you're home, like you're resting. And I feel like that's something else I value about the Sabbath. The Sabbath is just having that time together and just not being everywhere for all the things, but just relaxing. And sometimes that also means like for us, we open our home on Sundays and we just let people come over for dinner. And it's just that expectation of like, I'm not mopping the floors, like I'm not cleaning. Like it's just like I'm gonna cook a whole bunch of food because that's fun for me.
Mhm.
And you can come eat with our family and it might be messy, it might not, I don't know. It depends what the week looked like, but it's just like, here's real life, but let's have a meal together. So
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that so much. Awesome. Well, I wanted to share a little bit, just I'll jump in just on self-care because I'm in a new season as well, and maybe some listeners out there can relate to it. Because we started fostering a little boy. We're actually about a week and a half in, and it's been definitely a whirlwind. Just as those transitions are, he's going to be 4 in May. And so, he's had 3 previous foster families, but we're going to be his forever home. And we just love him already. He feels like our son. But, it's introducing into the mix like a whole a whole new thing. And my kids have been acting up because they're like, wait a minute, who's this kid calling my mom, which is, I love that he's already calling me
oh,
mama, which is so precious. But my kids are finding that hard at times. They're like, who is this guy just coming in? And then just different behaviors that arise, from his past, and it can be understandable, the different traumas that he's gone through. And so we're like navigating all of that. And I won't lie, this last week has felt a little bit like my husband and I are looking at each other like, oh my goodness, we feel like we're on a roller coaster. And so, I've definitely, and I felt like at the beginning of this year when we knew this little boy was coming to us, I felt like the Lord speak to me about making space for self-care for myself, and then also like simplifying things around our house. And so I really have been prioritizing like getting exercise, and I have like kind of committed to like, okay, I need this to have the headspace to be able to uh, just take care of things like in our home, and to take care of the kids, and to be patient. Like I need like next level patience in this season. I've realized, and I'm a patient person, but I'm like, oh, I need a whole new level of grace of patience. And I've been learning that very quickly. But so for me, I went ahead and got a gym membership again, just signed up for it yesterday because I just realized like I was doing home workouts for the last while, but I was like, you know what, I actually need that change of scenery. And so, we're working it out between my husband and I, like we're both realizing like we just need that space to kind of get away. And we're also going to use it honestly as our date nights to go to the gym because there's a sauna and a hot tub there. So I was like, you know what, it's not, the gym's like a mile away from our house. We'll get a babysitter, and that'll be our like date nights, is just going and doing that. And so we're just realizing to fuel ourselves for this season, like we both need to be proactive about what we're eating, because that's going to either energize us or drain us. And we already have, our energy being drained by 4 little kids in lots of ways, but and so it's like looking at this season of like, okay, we really need to empower ourselves by what we eat, how much we sleep, all those things. The sleep thing too for us is a little bit hard. I'm up a little bit just with our new little guy, but he's transitioning and adjusting actually really well. But he's just waking up at times just a little upset, which is hard to deal with. But so there's some uncontrollable factors in seasons, and just realizing like, okay, so this is what cards I'm dealt right now. How do I, work with those to make the best outcome for myself and for others around me? So yeah, I don't know if anyone out there can relate to that, but I just have so much respect for people who are in foster industry, and it's not easy work, but it's beautiful work. And yeah, I just want to share some of those tidbits for Grace in the season of, if you can relate to that fostering journey.
Yeah. Like you're getting to know him and his personalities and
Yes.
likes, dislikes, and how it all meshes with all six of you guys. And so you're
Yes.
formulating a new normal. So
It
yeah,
is.
like Kelsey was saying, like the first week was really challenging for them, like having a new
Yes.
family member. So sometimes it just takes time. And it sounds like, yeah, that perspective that you're having of like, okay, Grace, and this is what I need, and this is
Yeah.
what my husband needs, and this is what my kids
Yeah.
need. Just
Yes.
taking it one day at a time.
Yes. And finding those new family rhythms and stuff, like, so, and actually asking for help has been a big one. I think a lot of times as moms, we just like think like, okay, I need to prove my worth in the world by being strong enough, and like not asking for help. And it's kind of like that's how we almost measure our productivity, by how much we don't ask for help. And that was another thing that the Lord was challenging me on this year, like coming up to this little boy joining us, is like, he's like, you need to ask for more help. And so ways that I've practically been doing that is like, I called up one of the girls' friends the other day. It was like a particularly hard day. I knew the kids were having a hard time with different behaviors that this little boy was having. And so I just called my friend. I said, hey, could you take the girls for an afternoon? I just know that they need a little break. They need some friend time. And my friend was more than happy to like help out. And she actually loved that I asked for her help. And so the girls went, and then everybody was just more chill. They came back filled up from playing with their friends. I even got to just go to a store and just walk around and just like look at things and just be mindless for a little bit. And so it just like taking that little step to ask for help, I think, is so important in these hard seasons. And it's not saying that you're any less. It's actually it's like an empowering thing to ask for help. And so that can be a way of self-care, is if you realize you're trying to take the world on your shoulders, but you need to learn to let go a little bit. I just think that's something very important that I've been learning.
I feel like I can relate to that too. I mean, we're not fostering, we don't have a newborn, but I feel like we're in a busier season, and there's a lot of changes even in global health and my work. And there's been a lot of like early morning international meetings that I've had to attend where it's like, oh, it's cutting into my sleep. And the other day we had such a hard day, and it was like my husband and I were just like, we need to go for a walk. But usually we invite our family and we're like, we need to go kid free, and just like walk and process the day. So we asked somebody like, can you watch our boys? Like, we're just gonna go for an hour walk and just like decompress and like process the day and figure things out. And it was so refreshing. And it was just like we needed that pause, but also that time together. And it's not selfish to do that. Like, you have to take care of yourself so that you can be healthy to take care of your kids, like physically and emotionally. And it was just like, okay, we've got to ask for help and we can do this. So I feel like I relate to that, Kathleen.
And I love that you said like you took an hour and you knew what you needed to process to be able to move forward. Sometimes it's just slowing down that pace, right? You're like, okay, an hour, but if I spent 30 minutes walking and 30 minutes doing, then I could get this and this done. And I think that's like going against that cultural norm of being like, hey, I'm going to value my marriage, and I'm going to like realize I need this to be able to process these bigger life things and like ease into this transition and hear from the Lord. And so I think that's really admirable that you're like, okay, this is like needed space. It's just as valuable as any other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kathleen, I really wanted you to, I'm putting you on the spot totally, but
Okay.
I really wanted you in this episode to just pray over our moms out there and even over us, and just like releasing grace over people. I feel like there's something powerful in that, and just speaking that over others. So I don't know if you want to do that now or later or when, but I just would love for you to do that in this episode.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I would love to do that. I really quick, just wanted to share a verse. Both Christiana and I had shared this, I think, in the past episode of just one of the kind of core values is having like the verse 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, like up on our walls of like what love is. And, you know, with today's episode about self-love, I've just been thinking about how, you know, like Matthew 22:39 says, love others as you love yourself. And so that really is the essence of self-love, but it comes, or self-care, but it comes from God, you know, and so to understand, to see ourselves as God sees us, that's where everything starts and that's where everything flows from. And so then when I was thinking about that verse, we were talking about 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, taking each one of these things and applying it to yourself. Like we apply it to others, but like if I'll just read it. And so it says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. And I just think if we applied each and every one of those truths to ourselves, like, is my love towards myself patient? Is my love towards myself kind? And if we think of it like, maybe if it isn't kind towards ourselves, asking God, would you reframe how I love myself so that I can love others from a pure place? And so I just want to encourage mamas in that, you know, we pour out so much all day, and it can be exhausting, it can be tiring, and it can be hard, especially when the world doesn't value things that we value, that God values. And so, you know, I think it's so important, this idea of self-care is like asking God, Lord, would you either restore or renew the way I see myself? Would you show me how you see me so that I can see others more clearly, including our kids, which can be very challenging at times when they're having those behaviors that you're like, I didn't raise you to do this. So I would love to pray, but did anybody want to share anything else on that just before we just pray?
I would just want to say to like other moms, I feel like we've got a lot of you guys who are maybe raising young ones, but some of you might be in that sandwich situation where you're also caring for parents who are aging. That's definitely something that's entered our life earlier than expected and has been something we've been working through, particularly my husband's family for the past 2 years. But finding what grace is in that transition and that season to honor your parents and love your parents well, and just show that respect to them too. I would just encourage you guys, like it is challenging to go between those things, but modeling that to your kids, prioritizing that, carving out time, whether it's monthly, weekly, daily. I would just encourage you guys that it's not easy, and sometimes things have to get stripped away to add new family members in or care for people in ways that they haven't been cared for in the past. But just encouragement that it's possible, but kind of it's going back and resetting and saying, hey, what really is essential and what are those core family values, and where do we need to maybe make some adjustments? So just wanted to make sure to speak to that side too, as we're all you know, continuing this process of trying to love others well at all ages of the spectrum. So
Yeah. And I just wanted to add a word of encouragement. Just, you know, I feel like we live in such a culture where you might want to be like other people or have schedules like other people, or like see moms who do all the sports with their kids, and to just have freedom to step away from that. And like, it's okay if your family rhythms look different than everyone else's. Actually, they probably should. Like, your family is unique and has different needs, and it's okay to make your own path in that and to not look like everybody else. So I just want moms to feel freedom in that, to just have rhythms for your own family that maybe look different.
Okay, I'm going to toss one more thing in off that too.
Yeah.
I think that involves saying no more.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we have a hard time saying no, but really every time you say no, you're saying yes to something else. So you have to really know what your priorities are as a family and what you're capable of or not capable of in the season that you're in. And it's completely fine to say no and just kind of expect people not to get that. Like,
Mhm.
expect people not to understand that. And that's okay. Let them. Like,
Right.
just let them. It's all right to not make everybody happy and maybe even make your extended family happy. Like, it's about serving God and serving your spouse and making sure you're giving yourself grace to take care of yourself, but also taking care of your kids. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot of
Mhm.
stuff to handle and juggle. And maybe saying no sounds really scary to you. And I think all of us could say, yeah, I've been scared to say no at times, but I think I've really seen God work through saying no to things and just stepping back from things and taking the time that you need to. Um, I'm just thinking of like very early postpartum for me, like saying no to um, hosting stuff. Like we love to host people, but I knew that I was not in a place to do that. So like we're not going to do that right now. And we're going to say no to, maybe having people come over or unless they're like dropping off a meal or coming over to do dishes for me, like I'm not inviting you over to my house. So, and I
Awesome.
think we maybe, I don't know, I actually started writing my future grandmother self a note on my computer the other day because I'm like, I think I'm going to forget this stuff. Like, I don't think I'm going to remember what it's like to be a mom of a newborn again.
Mhm.
Like when I'm, I don't know, 60, 70 years old, like I'm probably not going to remember what it's like to be, um, you know, up every 3 hours and trying to care for older kids and really doing all of that stuff. So I think just be encouraged, like pray about it, talk to your
Mhm.
spouse about it, but be encouraged that it's okay to say no. And it's also okay if other people don't get it. Like
Yeah.
as long as you feel like that's what God is calling you and your family to, and it lines up with what scripture says, like it's a good no to give.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
even with that, like it's okay to say no to good things. Like it's
Yes.
okay to say no to promotions. It's okay to
Right.
say no to like your kids getting like moved up in sports. Like if you don't want to make that commitment, like it's okay to say no to good things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. You'll have to say no to good things. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Such a good point. Well, I did one other thing I wanted to bring up is because, we oftentimes just face mom guilt with things. And just this idea of self-care, I feel like sometimes there can be a negative narrative of like at least in our own heads, taking time for yourself. And it's like, like, oh no, you should be doing this for your kids. Or, I see it a lot on like social media and stuff, like different, moms who maybe are like runners or something, and then people have made them feel bad, like, oh, your kids shouldn't be in the stroller; they should be free to run. Why are you doing that? And it's like, they're like you were saying, Kelsey. It's like you have to let people make their judgments when you are the only one who knows everything that's going on in your life, and just realizing that, yeah, we live for an audience of one before the Lord, but just that idea that like self care is not like selfishness. I think, there has been seasons in my life when I have felt like, it was hard to let go of the previous season. And so I almost held on to entitlement in the next season where I was like, I should be allowed to do this. And like, so the Lord had to deal with my heart in that. But I think we need to let go of the guilt that like taking care of yourself is selfish, because it's not, so I don't know. Do you ladies have any thoughts on that, or maybe how you've journeyed any like guilt over decisions like that? Maybe you did have to say no to your child moving up in sports, or do any of you ladies have any examples of that, of how you worked through like feelings of guilt because it was against culture, but yet you knew it was either like just taking care of the family dynamic, or anybody have? Sorry, I'm putting us on the spot, but I just wondered if we did. Anybody? And
I
that's
think
okay
I'll
if we
just
don't.
No, I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
I think I'll just echo that I think that is a real thing that moms feel guilty for things, and it's almost like a shaming thing in culture, right? To like
Yeah.
prioritize yourself. But I feel like there's those extremes, right? Where there's
Yeah.
like the moms that really do only care about themselves and like want all the things. And then it's like, well, I don't want to
Yeah.
be in that category, but
Yeah.
do need to like take care of myself. So yeah, I feel like there can be a shame that comes with that. And yeah. And Kelsey had to go. So we could wrap it up now. Kathleen, if you just want to pray
Sure,
for
I'll go
us.
ahead and pray. Yeah, yeah. I think this is just all really good food for thought, as we consider how we can care for ourselves. Like, I hope that mamas out there just got a tidbit of advice that encourages you. But let me just pray and we'll just invite the Holy Spirit to come meet you this week where you're at. And He's the one, He is God with us, and He can lead you and show you, how to grow in this. So, yeah, so Father God, we just thank you so much for each and every mama listening. I pray right now that your peace would come rest upon them. Wherever they are feeling tired or weary, Lord, would you meet them? You say that you walk gently with those with kids, Lord Jesus. And so, Lord, I just pray right now that you would minister to their heart, to their mind, their body, their soul. Lord, that you'd come speak and bring solutions where they feel stuck. Would you come and minister to the moms and show them how you see them so that they can love others from that full well within them? And so, Father, I just pray that you would just release your goodness over each and every mama listening now, that she would have grace for herself, that she would feel your grace come upon her right now, and be renewed with strength for all of the tasks before her. And I just pray that now in your name, Jesus. Amen. Amen. Yay. Well, mamas, thank you so much for listening today. Be blessed this week, and we're so glad you tuned in today. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to the Beauty of Better podcast.
If you liked today's episode, don't forget to subscribe.
Connect with our community and check out other resources on our website at beautyofbetter.com.
We hope this podcast helped you take the next small step to find the beauty in becoming better.